when the tide goes out, you can see who's swimming naked. And what that means is, like, when the chips are down, when people are like, okay, we need to see what you're really worth. Life is getting a little tough here. So you're rich, right? You got the car, we see that. You got the nice clothes, you got the handbags, and you got all the swagger and the talk. Now the economy's getting a little rough, but guess what happens to all those people who were skipping steps? The tide went out because all of those rockin' good times where everything seemed fine, and the winter of life comes, and it always does. Life comes in seasons. When that tide goes out and you're standing there naked, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Alright, welcome back everyone to another video. Today's topic is on not skipping steps, the importance of seeing something through the entire experience from beginning to end. Alright, it is also on why you do not want to be given something that you do not deserve, and you also don't want to give something to somebody that they have not either earned or that they do not deserve. Alright, now what does this mean? Does this mean that we can't learn from past mistakes or other people's past mistakes? Absolutely not. We want to do that as often as we can. Not skipping steps. The way that I am talking about it in this video, this is in service of getting a holistic experience out of whatever journey you're on, whether that is money, whether that is your health and your fitness, your career, your life path, your relationships, whatever it is, right? So let's get some examples here. So my first example would be acting like you are rich before you are. This is one that has to do with your money. A lot of people, you probably see them. You may be like this in certain ways, and if you are, you can identify that and maybe make some changes. But you definitely know some people that are like this, who drive around in a car they can't afford, or that is basically their entire net worth right there in that car. Or they, I don't know, get their truck lifted, right? Or put some big ass tires on it, or rims or something like that. And hey, look, I love cars as much as the next guy, but we're talking about not skipping steps. There's an order to this. So if you're living your life as if you are already rich, that is a good way to stay broke forever. You can see it with many other things. Maybe you go out to eat too much. Maybe you buy too many clothes or gadgets or knickknacks or whatever it is. You guys know the kinds of things that destroy your money and your cash flow and your budget, that you are skipping steps. You're like, okay, I already want to live the life that I want in the future, but I want it right now. So we go get a credit card, right? And we run that son of a bitch up. And then what happens? Uh-oh, we're in trouble, and we get spanked by society and the world, and just by the fact that that is not how it works. That's what this video is about, in not skipping steps. This can be applied to many things, but it is about not receiving things that you have not earned and deserve, and it is also about, as I said, not giving things to people that they have not earned or deserved. Is a multitude of reasons for this. First of all, you want to go through the grind of improvement, of self-improvement, of improving your finances or your mind or your body or whatever it is. You want that to be difficult and a journey, and you want a story to tell at the end of it, because step by step, as you move forward through it, you are reaffirming to yourself that you are not helpless. You are rewiring your brain that, hey, when I say that I'm going to go through something or want to do something, we're going to damn do it. When you pull out the credit card and you start swiping and you start buying things like these knickknacks on credit, like a computer or a OLED TV, or like a, you guys know, like a car like we talked about, or you're in an apartment you can't afford that has 2 or 3 bedrooms when there's just you. Alright? These kinds of things. You can put whatever it is in this blank that you want. If it's not you, you know about the people out there that do this. Not skipping steps isn't just what it does to you financially. You will fall and be crushed by either your debt or you will be found out as a fraud. Think about it this way. If you go around acting like you're a doctor and you haven't even gotten into med school yet, eventually you'll be found out as a fraud. Or what'll happen is maybe somebody believes you. Maybe you wanted to skip the steps of going through med school. This is an extreme example, but this is one of those good ways, contrast. You take something to the extreme. If it doesn't work there, look at it on a small scale. If you try to act like you're a doctor and skip all the steps of learning medicine and just start treating people, you'll start killing people. That is not something that you want to bring into your life, but this works with small things too. Step by step, you can wire your brain in the wrong way to think that anything of value, any worth, any money, relationships, love, comes quickly and easily or not at all. We have this kind of, I've heard somebody call it the microwave society, to where we want it now, like everything. The way the media is set up makes people feel like if they don't have X, Y, and Z, they're nothing. If you're not a success now and you're not strutting for everybody, then you're nothing. That is the way we've been programmed to see things. This is skipping steps, man. You want to go through the whole journey. Remember, the journey is more important than the destination. They're both important, but the journey is where you find who you are. And the journey are the skills that you can apply to the next journey. And you shorten each journey a little bit. That's the way you get to skip steps, as if you've done it before. That's the only way. Now, there is such a thing as learning from other people. Like, I'm always an advocate, obviously, of all the books that I read, and I tell people, read people who have the lifestyle you want, or in the industry you want, or watch their YouTube videos, or listen to their podcasts, or whatever the case is. If there's somebody like out in real estate, if you want to be a real estate investor or something like that, find some real estate investors with some success and study them, man. Make it people that you respect. That way you can, because there's a multitude of very successful real estate investors, and you're not gonna like all of them. Take the ones you like, then make it easy and listen to their stories. They'll tell you 80% of their secrets, like in their books, in their podcasts and stuff. The thing is, 95 to 99% of people don't listen. You know why they don't listen? Because they want to skip steps. They don't want mentors. They don't want to read books. They don't want to do any of those hard things. This is why you want it to be hard. As far as I know, there's never been a time in the history of mankind where everyone did the right thing, where everyone was trying not to skip steps. So, because it's hard, all you have to do is basically just show up and try, and you will probably find a decent amount of success, because everybody else, you're past 90% of the population if you just damn try, because nobody wants to. They want to skip steps. They want to harvest a garden that they never cultivated. They didn't even plant seeds in that thing. They didn't cultivate any crops, no fertilizer, no taking care of the land or whatever, metaphorically speaking. And what do they want to do? They want the yield. They want the harvest. They think this is the fall of their life, and they're getting this beautiful harvest, selling off some of it, and they're fat and happy, and it's nice out and fall, and they got a bountiful Thanksgiving and all that. They want that without going through the journey. And that's what skipping steps is. I say metaphorically speaking because you go out there and you buy yourself a $50,000 car, but you don't have any investments on the side, or you have a job that only pays you $50,000 a year. What do you think's gonna happen? And if not you, you know people do this all the time. I believe the average loan on a car now is $600 to $700 a month. If you're watching this when it was recorded, $600 to $700 a month. All right, so if you're making 50 grand, right, that takes more than a quarter of that right there. And so what does that mean? You you have nothing left over. Maybe not quite a quarter of it, but when you take 50 grand and let's take 60 instead. That's probably an easier number. You take 60 grand and divide 12 into it. You get what? Like somebody crunch the numbers really quick. It's a little bit late and I'm tired, but that one's an easier one to do. and what happens? $600 to $700 or $600 to $700 car. Think about this. That's just the payment on that thing. That's not the insurance. That's not the gas. That's not the upkeep. You're out by maybe up to $1,000 a month once you got everything going. And if you're bringing home only 4 or 5 grand, that's about a quarter of the deal right there. You don't want to be doing that because that will cripple you. That is basically a shackle around your arms and your legs and around your bank account that will stop you from living the actual life that you want, because at the end of it, eventually that beautiful new SUV that you bought or muscle car or whatever it is, eventually that thing, it won't take that long, will turn into that damn car, man. So expensive. There's always something new I gotta do with it. I gotta register it every year. I gotta take it oil changes, and everything is so expensive it breaks down once in a while. Hopefully not if it's new, but I mean, you never know. Do you see what I'm saying? Skipping steps. But a person who hadn't skipped the steps doesn't get to that point. Now, I like to say the whole skipping steps theme is in service of going through the journey, yes, but also not taking things that you have not earned. What does this mean? Let's say somebody gives you something. We'll keep the car analogy here, or metaphor, whatever it is, because this is easy for most people to see, and most people know at least one person, probably like 10 or 20 people, that buy a car they can't afford. You've probably done it yourself. Maybe. So let's keep this going. So if you are given that $50,000 car, here's the deal. That, in a way, trains your brain to think, what did I say before? To think this. Oh, things in life, success, luxuries, nice stuff comes easily. Or not at all. So if I'm getting things easily, then I'm doing the right thing. If it's taking work, I don't know, because like, look at everyone else that has stuff. I didn't see them go through the work. I was given this $50,000 car, and I don't have to do anything with it. Do you see how it trains your brain to think that, hey, stuff comes easily or not at all? Because hard work is a myth, right? Your brain is thinking, it's like, nah, man, I don't want to do any hard work because look at everybody else. They're over there, they're driving their nice cars, and that needs to be me too. That's what your brain is saying. It doesn't do this to be mean to you. It's just that this is how you're programmed by the media. By the way, if you think about it, that's why they call television programs or radio or whatever. It's because it's programming your brain to have this like scarcity mindset, but also this lottery mindset that like, okay, I need to grab something quick because then that'll make me feel good, and then people will like me, and then I'll get promotions and whatever. There's only a small truth to that. Yes, you'll probably get a little bit of a, either a dopamine pop, or your self-esteem will go up just a bit, but if that self-esteem goes up over something you haven't earned, it's fleeting. You'll crash. Because that is not a good fuel for your life. You don't want fake self-esteem. Fake self-esteem comes from skipping steps. And when you crash, you find out exactly what you were. You're not going to like what you see. And you're going to be in debt, too. You're not going to be able to afford the car. And even if you can, you're looking at 6 or 7 years of payments on that thing. Does that make sense? So this is I like to tie this in, I forgot who it was that said it might have been Warren Buffett maybe, that when the tide goes out, you can see who's swimming naked. And what that means is like when the chips are down, when people are like, okay, we need to see what you're really worth. Life is getting a little tough here. So you're rich, right? You got the car, we see that, you got the nice clothes, you got the handbags, and you got all the swagger and the talk. Now the economy's getting a little rough. You might have to switch jobs because the one that you're in might be downsizing. You might have got fired. You might got laid off or whatever is happening. They're like, and everyone looks at you. They're like, okay, you're in a good spot because you have all these nice things, right? So you know how this works and how to get through it. But guess what happens to all those people who were skipping steps? The tide went out because all of those rockin' good times where everything seemed fine, and the winter of life comes, and it always does. Life comes in seasons. When that tide goes out and you're standing there naked, you'll have no one to blame but yourself if you're skipping steps. If you're not skipping steps, then you will have backup plans. Nobody who has like $50,000 a year in income buys a $50,000 car and has good savings and has good investments and all of those. And if they do have those, then they don't just make $50,000 a year. They have some stuff, cash flow coming in through investments, or maybe once in a while. This is like 1% of cars that people buy. I'm like hammering here on cars because this is one of the things I see the most. Because anywhere you go, you're going to see somebody's car. You have no idea what's in their house unless they invite you over. And cars cost a lot of damn money at one time. So somebody has a $50,000 car, 1% of the time, it'll actually help them make money. Like if it's a business thing. Like they make deliveries in their car, or they have a truck and it allows them to, I don't know, pick up valet trash, or like help with moving, like they're a moving company, or you know what I'm talking about. Once in a while, that is a good decision. 99 times out of 100, I would say it isn't. The people are not using it for those things, and that is when the tide goes out. And when that tide goes out, then your creditors find out that, hey man, you really couldn't afford this thing. And what happens? It will be taken from you. You will hit rock bottom, and everyone will see you were swimming naked. That's what that means. Tide goes out, you get to see who was swimming naked. The people who didn't skip the steps, they're not. Let me tell you about this giving people something they haven't earned. Not just getting it. We talked about getting it. Like someone gives you something, you haven't earned it, you take it. Like once in a while you can take a gift and stuff like that, but you cannot let your mind think that, okay, another gift is right around the corner. I can just live off of the generosity of mankind. The fact of the matter is, when it comes to especially high ticket items, nobody gives a shit about you. Okay? Maybe your mom did, but that's what you want to do? You want to have mommy and daddy, maybe grandma and granddad pay for all of your stuff? No, you don't want to do that. That's skipping steps. You will become a weak person. But here's the thing. You can get gifts once in a while. Don't let that change your mindset. The other side of that is if you give something to somebody that hasn't earned it, then they don't have experience. It erodes away all the experience that they would have gained. The whole teach a man to fish versus catching a man a fish. You catch a man a fish, you give it to him. Okay, he needs another one. I mean, dinner's coming up. You caught him one for breakfast or lunch. Dinner's coming up. Tomorrow is coming up. But you teach him, right? And he goes through the steps and not skipping them and understands how to do that. How to catch the fish, how to fend for yourself. That's great. You just catch the fish for him. That's like going to somebody out in the desert who is dying of thirst and you got a gallon of water there, and taking it and pouring it directly into their hands. 99% of it will be wasted. It'll just fall on the ground and it'll be useless. It's a bit of an extreme example. Obviously helps some person starving of thirst or dying of thirst in the desert, but the analogy is the same. If you give someone something they haven't earned or that they don't deserve, that's basically what you're doing. 99% of the experience just falls onto the ground. Yeah, they can probably lick up enough of it to not die for that day, but damn, they could have gone a lot longer with that whole gallon. You see what I'm saying? So, you don't want to give either, and what do you call that? Condone the sort of behavior to where people are looking for handouts all the time. There's no problem giving someone a hand up, but you teach them to fish, not just catch them the fish. You see, there's some people that unfortunately they make their living off of having other people pay all of their stuff. But the thing is, it's not a comfortable living. It's barely scraping by, and their lives are miserable. There's no end game there. There's no growth. There's no personal pride. Remember when we talked about that self-esteem? If you were given self-esteem in an illegitimate way, like you get self-esteem because somebody gives you something, and you're like, yeah, I'm awesome. Somebody bought me this new pair of shoes, and everyone likes me because of that, and I'm awesome and stuff. That's gonna fade. Dude, nobody's gonna give a shit about what shoes you were wearing 10 years from now, even 1 year from now. Nobody cares. Because that tide is gonna go out, and you're gonna be embarrassed if you're skipping steps. So for those of us who are doing stuff like this, and anybody watching this sort of content on my channel or otherwise, you're probably not someone who skips steps. And we talked about already how watching something like this or reading books or podcasts and stuff, for most people, that's too much for them. Those things are so easy. Those are essentially free. Podcasts are essentially free. YouTube is free. Books might cost some money. They're essentially free compared to almost anything. They cost like, I don't know, $10, $15, $30 if you get them brand spanking new and hardback. I try to get my books used, so they're less than half the price often. But even if you paid full price, right, you get 10 great books that cost $30 and you spend $300. That's still half of that $600 car payment that you had. If you did this, if you for 1 year didn't get a new car, instead what you did is you're like, every month I'm gonna spend that $600 on books, buy 20 books a month, like good ones, about the subject that you want to really rock in. Like, how about money and finance, since we're talking about costs here? That will change your life probably within 1 year. Now, you might not be able to read 20 books in a month, or not 20 full ones. You'll have to, like, go through them, but you see what I mean. People like to, they look at books and they're like, oh, the time, and oh man, this thing is $30. So what? $30 is essentially nothing, and like I said, you can buy a lot of them on Amazon for like less than $10. Just, I don't know, don't go to McDonald's one time that month and you can afford a life-changing book, and then you can stack them. Books give you that experience. You want shortcuts, you want to skip some steps, that's how you do it. It's the books, it's the podcasts, it's the spend time around those people that have been doing it. Then you can more safely skip the steps because they'll tell you about the things like, hey, these are those experiences you don't want to go through. You don't want to make the mistake I did. You don't want to invest willy-nilly in these things or whatever. Those steps you can skip. You're still going to have your own mistakes, but you can miss a lot of the big, crazy ones that some of these other people had to do because they warned you, because you put your time in somewhere else. Maybe not going through the same thing they did, but you put the time in and you did the step of, how about research the damn thing before you jump into it? Lots of people, they want to do that too. They're like, oh, okay, I just got this money. I'm just going to go out there and put it all in cryptocurrency because Bitcoin is a hot button word these days. Nothing against Bitcoin. The people that are interested in that and actually understand it, they didn't skip steps. They're doing this kind of stuff, okay? But I would say, again, it's the overwhelming majority of people want to get on the cryptocurrency bandwagon because it's easy. Because they're like, okay, this is something new. I hear about it everywhere. I got $500 to put into it, or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever it is. And they do, and they don't understand the way that it works or have no interest in it at all. They're going to lose their money. Because those sorts of things, that's how it works. You have to put that time in. And even if you do make it big, eventually the tide will go out. You could have been one of these people. I know so many people who invested in Bitcoin and ended up with a lot of money in it. For example, like they invested either when it came out or shortly afterwards, and their investment turned from a few $100, a few $1,000s into tens of thousands, and then they lost it, and then the price of Bitcoin went up and down, and they got emotional in their investing and sold, and then bought when they shouldn't, and then sold. Do you see what I mean? Because they skipped the steps. Because eventually, the universe will take that stuff from you when it sees you've been given something that you don't deserve or you don't appreciate. And appreciation doesn't mean that you just sit there and you're like, oh yeah, I'm so blessed to have this. There is that. The other appreciation is like, oh, okay, I appreciate that I just practically won the lottery by getting this opportunity, by getting this for free, and now I need to do my homework, because in order to keep it, because you won't keep it because you skip the steps. If you're given something like a gift or something, that appreciation means like, okay, and now I need to understand it. Somebody gave me a couple of Bitcoins and they're worth tens of thousands of dollars or whatever they are. It goes up and down. But you don't understand it. Most of the people I know that made a bunch of money in Bitcoin lost it all. Because the tide went out, man. The tide went out and they were swimming naked. They didn't know anything about it. Not saying they suck or anything. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that they skipped steps. They thought this was their get-rich-quick thing. They thought that mining cryptocurrencies and buying all of these computer farms to farm these like blockchain or cryptocurrency or something that's the next best thing. That's that lottery mentality. Like, ooh, I'm gonna catch this trend and it's gonna make me a millionaire. There's nothing wrong with catching trends, but you gotta be sharp about it. You gotta like research, you gotta read the books, you gotta follow those people who are having success in it. You gotta watch that stuff all the time, and if you don't wanna do any of that, you don't have interest in it, that is not the thing for you to invest in. You need to find something else that you have interest in. Don't go into cryptocurrency if you don't give a shit about that. That's the worst thing that you can do, because it takes a certain level of, hey, I have to work this many hours a day or a week understanding this, following the market, following the trends, understanding the technology, and investing in general. And if that sounds like that's making your head spin, it is not for you. The tide is going to go out, and the universe is they're going to point you out. You're going to be there naked. Everyone's going to be laughing at you. Or you're going to lose your credibility. They're going to be like, damn, man, I thought you had all these Bitcoins and things were rocking for you and everything, and now you're down to little more than what you started with. And that'll crush your soul, too. That's another bad thing about skipping steps. The tide goes out enough and you get embarrassed enough, you'll never try again. You'll be like a whipped dog. You know what happens if you're training a dog or something and you whip them too much? They become fearful. And you can almost never turn that around. Once the dog becomes too fearful, then you might as well give up trying to train them, trying to raise them in whatever way that you're trying to do. If you whip them too much, that's you. That's your brain. If your brain gets whipped too much from the tide going out, because you're skipping steps, because you're being lazy, okay, then you may never try again. And that is not an encouraging thought. So I'll probably do another video on investing in things. Like, I would start with things that you have interest in. It doesn't have to be cryptocurrency. Like, too many people got on the cryptocurrency bandwagon because of this reason right here. This, particularly men, although a lot of women did this too. I knew a lot of guys who they like to play video games. I do too. Or I did a lot more back then, especially when the cryptocurrency stuff first started coming out. And it was like, oh, you can use your nice gaming computer to make some money on the side. And people saw all these dollar signs. They're like, yeah, I can make $200 on the side having my gaming computer mine these cryptocurrencies or whatnot. And I get some of it for doing that. I can be paid in that or cash or whatever the deal was. You can look it up. I can't remember everything about it. I didn't do one of those things because I knew about this that I'm saying right now. And I looked at everyone else doing it. I'm like, you guys are only interested in this because it gives you another excuse to buy an expensive computer so you can play video games. I'm like, bro, if you want to play video games and buy an expensive computer, just damn do it. give people or the universe the excuse and hide behind, oh yeah, but it's going to make me money. It's going to make me money. Right? Remember we talked about the person who buys a pickup truck for 50 grand but is using it for their business. The same can be said for a computer, but that's not the spirit of why they did it. They did it because, okay, this gives me a good excuse to buy a $2,000 or $3,000 computer because I'm going to make $200 every month mining cryptocurrency. And I'm like, yes, that is. So if you bought a $2,000 computer and it was fast enough near the beginning to make $200 a month, how many months does it take to break even? That's 10 months. In 10 months, you will break even. You won't turn a profit for 10 whole months. And that's not including the electricity for you having that son of a bitch on 24/7. And these powerful gaming computers consume a lot of electricity. You're not talking about that. You're not talking about the fact that you're pushing that thing so hard all day long that it's going to slow down, that its components are going to wear out. It's not going to be as great 10 months from now of constant use as it was when you first bought it. It might only be able to mine $50 by that point, or $100. It might crash completely being used that much. Do you see what I'm saying? Nobody thought about these things, and I was watching everybody. It was crazy, and now you can't even use those things and get the profit that they were promising in the beginning because market saturated. Everyone wanted to do it. Does this make sense? Nobody thought about those things, and virtually nobody that I knew who made money in cryptocurrency or went after that because it was this awesome thing tied to their computer that they love so much, none of them have any of that money left. Almost none of them. You know why? Because they skipped steps. They had that lottery mentality. The experience of becoming an investor and really fleshing out their repertoire, their intelligence, their holistic view on what exactly an investment is and money and whatever. All of that was cheapened by the fact that they saw these dollar signs. They saw some people, like some of the first people that jumped on that thing who had like farms of like 8 to 10 computers or something, getting a couple $1,000s a month. And I'm like, dude, 10 computers that cost $2,000 each. How much do you think you're going to have to put out for that? 100% of you pretty much cannot afford that at all. You might be able to afford 2 by maxing out your credit cards. You see what I'm saying? So this is the importance of not skipping steps. I know this is a bit of a longer video, but this is an illustrative story that I can tell you, but you can see this anywhere. You see the people who used to take, I mean, I'm sure it still happens, but I think it was a bigger thing before, or rather it was in the media more before, but people who would take steroids in order to get huge and built and they look really good, but it's really damaging and hard on the body. So when that tide goes out, when their heart can't take it anymore, or when their genitals are shriveling up, or when X, Y, and Z, you see what I mean? When that tide goes out and you can see like, oh man, that those things really screwed you up, man, because you were skipping steps. You were being lazy. You were just trying to get there. Right? You didn't want to go through the path. The path is what makes it good, man. That is, because I'll tell you one thing. Once you get there to the end of anything, you don't even care as much about the product as you did the good quality work that you put in throughout the whole time. You're like, man, I remember every day when I was, I don't know, writing my first book or something. Every day I would get out my computer, I would block off time. I would sit there and write every day or every other day, several times a week. And I remember every single one of those days and the writer's block I got, the discouragement that came through, but then the encouragement and the inspiration. You know, there were those rainy days and then there were those sunshine and rockin' good days. I remember all of those. For a whole year I was writing this book or whatever your thing was. That's what you'll remember. Not just holding your book, that's great too, don't get me wrong, but that experience, because the experience changes your mind. It teaches you that you don't need those handouts. You can You know how to fish. You don't have to be caught a fish. And you can apply that to the next thing. And like I said, that is pretty much the only other way to actually skip the steps is if you've done them before. It's like, okay, I've written the first book already. There's a lot that I learned doing that I don't have to go back through and learn. I know how to do that. This one will be faster. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's one way that you can skip steps and not get in trouble. The tide will go out, but you'll already know. You're like, dude, I knew the tide was going out. That's why I put, an extra swimsuit on or whatever it was, because the winter was coming. We know the winter of your life, of anything, of any cycle is coming. Nothing lasts forever. We have seasons to these things. Winter comes, and that's when you think. They say that's when you're supposed to be thinking. You can't be doing anything. It's too cold outside to be planting seeds and working your garden. I mean, you might be able to do a little bit of cleanup, but you know what I mean. It's really too cold to do anything. So that's when you think. That's when you plan. What did I do good? How was the journey going? What did I do bad? What do I need to learn from? Who do I need to learn from? It's the kind of things you do in the winter, and then when spring comes, you're like, okay, you don't want to be those cryptocurrency dudes who they only see fall. They only see autumn. They don't see spring. Their spring consists of this. Okay, I'm going to buy a bunch of computers, plug them in, and have them running 24/7. And pretty much at the end of the month, and every month from now on, I'm going to have an extra $200 or $300. Because that's jumping straight to autumn. You're skipping the steps. You're skipping the seasons of life. Because cryptocurrency is just a thing for now. Nothing lasts forever. So one day that won't be a thing. And if it is, it won't be the same. It won't look the same. It won't whatever. People didn't. We have used paper money for a long time now, but there was a time where people didn't use paper money. They used ore, or maybe beaten into coins, or like these bullion bars and stuff. We didn't use paper. And look, that paper is kind of going away a little bit, but the same thing will happen with everything. Because there are seasons to this. And you can't latch onto something and think this is the thing that's gonna save me forever and ever, and I just gotta do this one thing. And so what kind of life is that? Is learning for a lifetime should be the goal. And skipping the steps, you can't do it. Unless you want the tide to go out and everybody to see you swimming naked. Alright. So, thank you so much to everyone for being here. Don't skip any steps, alright? And have a beautiful day.